Alright guys, it's time for an update on my 57 Chevy build. As you guys know, we are putting a Cadillac Northstar under the hood of this thing, and we are planning to take it to the 6 Smokies Drag and Drive. To bring you up to speed, our goal with this engine is to develop what we hope is the GM version of the Coyote. The plan is to install a medium-sized turbocharger onto this build and try to go 8s. And while we're on the subject of the turbo, let's talk about what turbo we're going to run on this engine. Now, we're shooting for right around 750 wheel horsepower. And my philosophy with turbos is I want something that is big enough to not generate a ton of back pressure, but small enough to be able to spool the turbo. So we're going to go with what I have in my hands right here. This is a VS Racing 8082 millimeter turbo. This turbo has actually been around the block a few times. This turbo was first put on my station wagon when we were trying to build the car for sick week, and I was trying to go 8s with it, and we actually installed this thing onto my dad's yellow 2010 Camaro, the car that we call the All-American Supra, and we made 1,004 wheel horsepower with this turbo right here. Now, we were starting to run into some pretty significant back pressure issues at that 1,000 wheel horsepower mark, so I think if we're in the 750 wheel horsepower range, this turbo should perform excellently. So my goal with this turbo is to mount it right around here-ish, and then the discharge from the compressor can go right into the engine, and you know, our turbo plumbing should be pretty simple. We should be able to put our wastegates down in this region right here. That should make them very easy to service and leave plenty of room up front for our heat exchanger, for the air-to-water intercooler system, and our radiator, of course. As for the exhaust, I haven't thought that 100% through quite yet. I don't know if we're going to try and send it down through this area and try to run it all the way out the back of the car, or if we're just going to do a fender exit. Obviously, this being a drag and drive car, you need to consider stuff like that. You got to consider that if you exit it right down at the base of the fender, you might be breathing in some of that exhaust gas as you're going down the road. And also you have to deal with the extra noise that you will get from discharging the exhaust down there. On the other hand, if you take the exhaust all the way out the back, that is another packaging concern. You got to make room for that exhaust. But you also have to consider that that exhaust will weigh more, and you have to make more horsepower to make up for that weight. And after just talking about all that, I'm probably leaning towards send it out the back just for the additional creature comfort. One more thing to consider with a turbo is you got to get air to it. Ideally, that air will come from the grill area, and you know, you could get some ram air induction just from, you know, the movement of the car. But you also have to consider, are you going to put a filter on this thing? You know, do you have to build an air box in order to house a filter that you can then pressurize that canister and, you know, try to make a little extra horsepower? In the past, I've gotten lazy with that aspect of the turbocharger. On my Fairmont station wagon, I sucked air right off of the radiator, and we were seeing close to 175 degrees of inlet air temp. So it's definitely worth getting cold air into this turbo, and that's something you need to consider with turbo placement on a drag and drive car. Now, in the last episode, you guys commented that it looked like our Firewall notch was not going to allow us to easily service the engine in chassis. And I kind of had the same thought when I was in the process of doing it. And in order to address those concerns, I actually have now notched the Firewall quite a bit more. This is the section that I cut out of the Firewall, and you can see how much closer the notch was to the valve cover here. What I found was it was not going to be easy to get in and out of that location to get spark plugs out, and taking my ignition coil out of the rear cylinders was basically impossible. Now, the Northstar engines have a pretty nice little ignition coil bracket that you can see here. All 4 ignition coils come out at the same time. And with the new Firewall notch, you can see that I can get this thing down into the engine fairly easily. With the old one, there was just no way it was going to come in and out. And 3/8. 14 and 1/8. Alright. I think we got the engine where we want it in the chassis, so now we're going to start making metal to lock it down.
Hang on. Okay.
Here we go.
It's loading.
thought the offset on the engine's like incredibly crooked in the car. Because I put the two mounts backwards and I just fully welded it in. Like it never even happened. Next, we're going to get into the transmission tunnel and the rear section of the floor to address some more sheet metal issues back there. One of my favorite builds out there is David Freiberger's 56 Chevy, which he calls the field car. And one of the things that I love about the thing so much is that they literally just pulled the thing out of the field, stuck an engine in it, fixed everything to the point that it could run down the track, and it's basically remained in that state. While I want to build this car to a bit of a higher level than that car was, we're going to emulate some of the practices that he did on that car. And that kind of brings me to the floor in the car. Now this car has been repaired a lot. These days you would just throw the thing out and get a new car, but back in the days when these cars were popular, you fixed what you had. If there was a rust spot, you lapped over it with some sheet metal and you kept the thing on the road. And you can see there's quite a bit of evidence of that in this car. Just in front of me here, I have counted like 7 patches. There's a patch here, 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 up here, and the rocker panel, they literally just left the rusted rocker panel on the car and they just lapped over it with a new one. They did the quarter panels the exact same way on this car, and there's a whole bunch of patches back in this area, a whole bunch of patches back in that area, and an equal number of patches over on the passenger side footwell. And that kind of brings me to what I want to name this car. We're going to call this car Patches 57 because this thing has so many patches in it. I haven't even counted up all of the patches that we put into the Firewall, but by the time we're done with this thing, there's probably going to be well over 100 patch jobs in this car. This car will never be perfect. If I wanted something that was in perfect, like concourse level shape, we wouldn't be doing this car. This car was pretty affordable when we got it, and it shows. There are a lot of typical places that these 57 Chevys rust out, and this thing is rusted out in all of those typical areas. The only thing that was really nice in the car was actually the Firewall, and well, you see what we did to that. So we're just going to continue the trend in the car and keep adding patches until this thing is solid enough that we can take it down the track. And the goal is to have as much fun as possible with this car while not being as concerned with some of the issues that you can't really see. And while we're talking about abominations, we should probably move on to the rear and show you some of the mess that's going on back there. I don't think I have to do a whole lot of explaining back here to demonstrate that we got some problems back here. Obviously I'm sitting where the trunk floor should be, and the patchwork continues back here. This is actually the portion of the car that kind of put me over the edge on this car's really not worth putting a ton of energy into. And the specific area that really made that decision easy was right up here. This portion of the car has been repaired in a very crude way, and it's because there's a lot of rot in that area. These cars were sometimes offered with a posi traction rear differential, meaning it had a clutch in the center and it would attempt to put power to both wheels. But the cars like this one that were offered with an open diff would almost always break traction on the passenger side because there was more weight typically on the driver's side. When the traction broke loose, especially in a snowy or muddy type environment, it would sling debris up into the wheel well on the passenger side, and that caused premature rot. And this car is completely destroyed with rust up in this area. And in order to fix it right, I feel like it's going to be a situation where, you know, you have a loose piece of yarn on your sweater and you're going to start pulling, and pretty soon you're not going to have a sweater anymore. To fix this car right, I'm pretty sure we would have to take this entire corner of the car and cut everything out and replace it with new. And I'm just not interested in doing that right now. As you can see, the previous owner has already patched in a portion of the car with another portion from another car. This blue area right here obviously was cut out of another vehicle, and you can see that they very crudely welded the thing into the car. And I'm just not interested in getting into that can of worms right now. So we are going to pretty much take every area where the rust is really bad in this area, and we're just going to you know, pretend like we didn't see it, put a nice metal patch over it, and move on with our lives. On this side of the car, there's also a significant amount of rust in this area, and again, piece of metal, lap over it, weld the sides of it, and the only people that will know that it's there is you and me, so don't tell anybody.
Did you tell them about the part where this car used to deliver stuff out to a field to help the lettuce grow?
Oh, is that how it got all that rust?
I think if they know the reference, they'll know what I mean.
Oh, okay. I don't know what he was referencing. What are you referencing?
American Graffiti, one of the greatest scenes in the movie.
Hey, you're supposed to be the fastest thing in the valley, man, but that can't be your car. It must be your mama's car. I'm sort of embarrassed to be this close to you.
Yeah, well, I'm not surprised driving a field car.
Field car? What's field car?
Field car runs through the fields, drops cow all over the place to make the lettuce grow.
That's pretty good.
John Milner asked Bob Falfa if that was a field car, and he's, field car? What do you mean field car? And that's the thing that you use to spread the cow poop out in the field to help the lettuce grow. It's one of the best scenes in the movie.
Okay.
I've let you down. You're not brainwashed with that movie.
Okay. I didn't know that. So next, my dad is going to work on patching in this section of the floor. So let's get to work.
Alright, so what I got to do is I got to trim this all out. Then I'm going to trim this down, and then all this gets prepared and fitted and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, there's a lot of work to do here.
All right, guys, brief aside over here at our all-out turbo 4200 powered 95 Camaro build that we are starting to accumulate parts for. Now, if you guys aren't familiar with this car, we're doing a all-out build with this thing for a drag and drive effort to compete in the Sick Week Freaks class. I'm hoping this car will go 7s. One of the most important things about building a car of this caliber is making sure that it's safe. And I am really happy to be working with the guys over at Lunar's Outlaw Garage on these guys right here. This is a coolant adapter for the upper coolant connection on the 4200 that the guys over at Lunar Outlaw Garage have developed. They also have a 20 AN lower coolant setup, which is set up for a LS thermostat. The idea with running an AN connection for your coolant lines is that it will hold more pressure without blowing your coolant hoses off and potentially putting coolant down on the track and causing you to spin out. Another thing that's really important on a car of this caliber is your oil pan. And I'm really happy to be working with Matt over at Forever Fabrication with this really, really well-designed oil pan. This is the caliber of part that I was hoping would be developed for the 4200 someday. And I'm really happy that we can work with people who make such quality pieces such as this one. Now, you'll notice that the oil sump on this thing is very, very shallow. This is designed to get the engine as low in the chassis as possible, which is going to help us because it's going to get the center of gravity lower. That being said, it is designed with a nice kick-out style pan, so it should help to keep the windage under control, and it also gives you a lot of extra volume. This is designed to hold 7 quarts, and unlike some of the other oil pans that are currently being offered, it comes with a pickup tube. And another huge advantage is it comes with a dipstick. One last huge advantage of this oil pan is the sump is baffled. It has closeouts on either side in order to keep the oil close to the pickup when you're experiencing lateral acceleration. Hopefully we're not experiencing a whole lot of that in this car, but it is nice that they have put the thought into this oil pan. So make sure you go down into the links in the description and check out Lunar's Outlaw Garage and Forever Fabrication. It's really good to have some parts finally starting to show up on the market, so make sure you go and support them. All right, guys, we got a lot of work done today. The engine is mounted, at least in the front. We still got to make the transmission mount. We're making good headway on the rear sheet metal on the car. A few of you may have noticed the color here on the Firewall that I have painted the bare sheet metal. This is actually about the color that I'm hoping to go with on the car. Now, all 57 Chevys should have a two-tone paint job, at least in my opinion. White on top, and I'm hoping this green color here on bottom. So leave a comment down below on what you think of that color. I think it's going to look pretty neat. So with that, make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe, and we will see you in the next one.